recording now. So welcome everybody to what is this? Art 244, bronze casting. And we are recording now for posterity. All right. And so if anybody has just a wonderful, inspiring story about how you were so um, inspired by your sculpture, that you were in the throes of sculpting frenzy all weekend long, and want to just tell us how you lost yourself in the sculpting process for hours at a time, only to be rescued by a significant other or a blow to the head by somebody who is not so near and dear to your heart. You just go ahead and click that like and subscribe button. You tell us all about it, because that would be great. I saw a thin part in my tail. The tail on the cat has to taper. It must be a very long, continuous tapering form. So it is thick where it attaches to the butt or the backbone, and then it tapers to its long, ratty, catty tail thing. But, you know, you guys are probably not doing a cat, so you probably don't care about the cat tail. So what we had a new president, new administration inaugurated last week, and we had rain today, and I don't know what else. Did any of you guys get your stimulus checks, or should I say debit cards from the government for 600 bucks? I got one, and I was unhappy to see that when I activated the card, that they took off $23 as a service charge for activating and hosting the card, which leaves the recipient with about $578 worth of value on the card. Did anybody else have that experience at all, or your families or parents or anything?
Nah, mine was direct deposited.
If you got a check direct deposited, good on you. I just don't understand why the federal government would even work with credit card companies to send out a debit card loaded with the 600, and then you get banged with a fee to use the debit card.
If you're a dependent over 16, you don't count for the stimulus at all, so it doesn't really matter.
What?
Okay.
Yeah, if you're a dependent over 16, you don't get any stimulus. Your parents don't get any stimulus, nothing. So that includes disabled people. That includes a lot of college students, even high school students.
Okay, so do they not exist? Is that how this is going?
Oh, no, they exist. They just don't get a stimulus at all. So like if, say, my mom, say like a parent had 3 children and 2 of them were like 8 and the other one was like 17, they would do additional stimulus for those 2 kids, but they wouldn't do anything for the child that's like 17. Or
They must
say
not
you are
take
an
up
adult,
resources.
say you're an adult taking care of like your parent who's elderly. If that parent is a dependent, then they don't get counted either for extra stimulus.
That's stupid.
Oh yeah, but they did it to get rid of like the people who are the most against the government at the time, which was disabled people and college students. Like,
it is horse trading at the political level, which is no good, because you're trying to make a deal between Democrats and Republicans to pass a stimulus plan, and so people with needs that are in big categories and groups are nothing more than bargaining chips, because you're trying to get a plan passed, and you hold up the whole plan to make sure that this one or this other group get covered. And so unfortunately it's very messy. Making sausage is always messy, and people get hurt in the process, and that's politics. That's politics at the big level. Sorry about that. And so I'm trying to make my cat better while I'm grieving this stupid political process that we have. In the rain, it was so cold and so rainy today. It was no bueno being outside.
I ended up having to walk to a dealership while it started to like rain and stuff, because my car was crapped out. Good note, it works now much better than what it did.
Hey, good for you.
Yeah.
All right. And I'm sure that all the work was covered under warranty, so you didn't have to pay a penny out of pocket, right?
No, I paid almost $500.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I was wrong.
Yeah. It just had slave cylinder go out, but it counted under wear and tear, so it wasn't covered under my warranty. So I just had to pay $1,000 to get it fixed.
No.
Yay, capitalism.
Parts are cheap. It was only $200 for the parts. It was $800 in labor that got me.
Yeah. I had a tree service come over to look at taking a tree down in my yard, and they wanted $1,400 to take the tree down. And the sticker shock, I just about, my head snapped off as I, did a double take, because I'm old enough to remember that you could get a tree taken down for $300 or $500. I didn't know that it was going to cost $1,400 to take down. It's a good sized tree, but oh my God, that's a lot of money to pay. But that's my problem, because I'm not keeping up with stuff, Back in the old days.
Mhm. It's funny because like I'm house sitting for a friend of mine right now, and she has goats, which is fun. Yeah. Yeah, she has goats. But I like came here straight from work, and I had to like get the goats into their pen before it gets dark, because apparently goats are afraid of the dark. And I had to do that all before class, and they're funny. Their favorite snacks are banana chips. That's how you get them to do what you want.
I've had a goat before, and his name was Fred, and he was a pygmy.
Oh yeah, these two goats, their names are Dipper and Mabel.
Oh.
Yeah, and they're very sweet. I don't remember what kind they were. I know that they're a mix of something. But yeah.
Goats
Oh,
are fantastic.
I got to start a notepad
Pretty
over here
fucking
so that I
asshole.
don't forget the stuff that I'm supposed to do. I was going to get small plastic containers with lids, or bottles with lids, so that I could get you guys some paint thinner for this smoothing process. So I got to do that, and I got to do it with enough lead time so that you might be able to get in here and pick up a little bottle of paint thinner, so you don't have to go buy your own. Paint thinner bottles, if I can find the 2-ounce bottles someplace, maybe dollar store, bottles and caps.
Wait, paint thinner is how you get everything smooth?
Yes. You need some kind of a solvent to just slightly melt the wax at its surface, and paint thinner is a good solvent for this. Alcohol would be a good solvent. Other petrochemical solvents would work. Gasoline would be a solvent, although, you're starting to really poison yourself when you're coming in direct contact with gasoline. Back in the day, back when I was a kid, we used to wash our hands in gasoline.
I don't know if that's a joke or not.
It was not a joke, but you're not supposed to do that because of the benzene. Is a carcinogen.
Oh my goodness.
It's a really good solvent, though. We would wash tools in gasoline because it just cut everything. It's a fantastic solvent. Don't do it. Don't do it, man. It's bad for you. Or it's not bad immediately. It's bad 10 or 20 years down the road when the cancer is caused. So you have to be careful with that stuff. I'm sure glad we're recording this now because it's such good information I'm able to impart to you guys.
Yes, don't touch gasoline.
Don't touch the gasoline. So I'm putting little cat toes on my little cat feet here, which are probably going to be so obnoxious that they're going to have to go away. But for now, they're there just so that I've got something to look at. All right. So this is going just gangbusters. I'm going to put the cat down and pick up the seated sculpture and maybe start working on that a little bit. Maybe I'll even try yet another camera angle because, you know, I can bring this camera in close and tight and come down and look at that. So we can sculpt. And so I'm going to be doing quite a bit of additive process here, which is just pretty much tearing the wax into small pieces and blending it rather quickly, not trying to really smooth things out, but just get an additive process, kind of a texture going as I fill in surfaces and bring surfaces up to even with other surfaces and kind of get a general thing going. I do both additive and subtractive process. So I'm going to build up surface, and then 10 minutes later, I might just turn right around and scrape it all back down again with a subtractive process. I just moved my breast form, so I find that my thing needs to be welded together a little bit. So I'm going to hit this with a little bit of flame and heat on my, let's see if I can't really get that any place where it can be seen by the camera. So 5 to 8 seconds in the torch flame gives me enough heat to really get a weld going here on the wax. And then if I roll a little wax between my thumb and forefinger, and I can kind of lay it in here, and don't put your hand in front of the flame because it'll burn the snot out of the back of your hand, and that's really bad. And we apply the knife, and we get out of there, and we keep doing it over and over again until we have things welded together and all of the gaps are filled. And then I'm going to go back to the additive process again. But I hope that you guys are finding just a huge amount of, I don't know, power and liberation doing this, because when you are sculpting, you know, you're in total control of something. You know, you're the captain of the ship, and you're making all of these decisions and choices and stuff, and you're creating something from scratch, and that feels pretty cool. You know, whenever I took wood shop in high school or metal shop or all of the other things that you can possibly do, even, you know, taking computers and home ec and all kinds of other things, you're always finding ways to be creative and to learn how to manipulate the tools or the instrument or whatever it is. Like if you're in band and you're learning an instrument, and to be able to perform with that instrument, to make that thing sing for you and really work, is pretty cool, whether it's a hammer or a trombone. And so when we come into the art studio, then we're taking that concept, I don't know, to its most ridiculous conclusion, that we can make anything that you can imagine, you can make as a visual image. Sometimes, even if you can't imagine it, you can stumble into it kind of backwards and still make beautiful, wonderful, awesome things. And sometimes if you get comfortable and if you get confident and if you get cocky enough, you know, you just kind of, I better get into the shot here so you guys can see what I'm doing. So I'm done welding for a while, so I can lean forward and be in the shot. So I'm sculpting rather quickly with a certain level of confidence and throwing the wax, you know, onto the surface to just try to fill in places that are low and just trying to build my form out and trying to, you know, keep rolling the kind of sculpture in my hand to make sure that I'm kind of evaluating what's happening with every additional piece of wax that's going on here. Because, we talk about, well, I haven't told you this story yet, but the idea of abstract art was explained to me once by an art professor who said it's like having both a monkey and a museum curator in the same person. You want the artist to be creative and a little bit out of control, like the monkey, where the monkey just keeps smearing the paint around, trying new things and making marks and everything with abandon. And that's a wonderful thing. But you also want to have the artist be the art curator from the museum who keeps looking at it carefully and evaluating what's going on, because the art curator has to be the one who snatches the painting away from the monkey before the monkey gets tired of it and stops painting and just balls it up into a ball and eats it. So you have to, in your creativity, kind of be half monkey and half artistic museum curator. And I thought that was a lovely anecdote. I don't know if it's very helpful to you guys, but I thought I would share it, pass it along for what it's worth. Creativity takes both that reckless abandon and an overall sense of design and artistry and knowledge kind of in the background, just to make sure that your art doesn't spiral out of control and wind up crashing and burning in a field someplace. I'm going to mix my metaphors all up until I find one that works for us. But, with this wax, we can do both the additive and subtractive process. And so I can put it on and I can build it up and I can, evaluate it. I can look at it in terms of, the gesture and all the sloopiness and everything that's really sensual and wonderful about the human figure. And then if it's too much, if it's too whatever, I can always carve it back down, shape it back down, bring it to a different place by using the sculpting tool as a carving tool. And especially I'm going to do that with my transitions at the joints. Every place where I had to cut and paste this thing together is kind of a harsh transition that I have to fill in with wax and resculpt to make a convincing, knee joint or hip or shoulder. And so that's where, it's a combination of the monkey and the curator, trying to get it to look like something, and yet sculpting fast enough and with enough of a sense of abandon that you can also make interesting, weird stuff that, oh, that looks interesting, maybe I should keep that. And so we're always going to try to do a little bit of a little evaluation of what we've done as we blast this thing out and make the process go pretty fast. And I know I can say all that stuff, and then you still get mad at the sculpture when it just keeps breaking in the same damn joint every time. Does anybody have one of those things happening where you've got this just tired out wax at a critical point, and so the pieces keep falling apart?
So I was gonna say something a little bit ago. It hasn't fallen all the way off, but the tail on my bird is it's loose, and I keep trying to patch it with wax. I might need you to help me because I don't think I can make the weld in the angle that it's at without screwing up the body of the bird.
Okay, that sounds good. Yeah, I almost. Are you on campus or are you out in the town someplace?
Right now, well, I'm usually home by this time anyways. I'm staying home this week because my kid was sick, and then I got sick last weekend, so I'm just getting over everything.
Okay. So, and do you work during the daytime?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
I usually, so it depends on the day. You can I could shoot you my tutoring schedule, but um Tuesdays and Thursdays I pretty much am in engineering class all day.
Oh,
But on Wednesdays and Mondays I work uh 12 to 1, or yeah, and then 1 and then 2 to 3, and I have a class in between. And then Wednesdays I think I work from 9 to 1, and then Fridays I don't even have a class. I'm just there all day.
okay. So Wednesday, when you get done at 1, come on over here, and I might even be teaching my class. But if you come to the door, and I'm sitting here, I'll open up the windows and the draperies and stuff in Eden 7, and I'll just flip on um, the torch and weld your thing together, and you'll have to sit and wait for it. It's going to take about 3 to 5 minutes for it to cool off and harden, and for the microcrystalline wax to form its little crystals and do all that kind of stuff. But I can get it welded on for you pretty good just after the 1 o'clock hour, if you can stop by here after you get off at 1. Does that sound like this plan?
Yeah, yeah, I'm trying to think. I think I have a class at 1, but I can
Well,
fudge it around a little bit.
how about 2?
Yeah, I could do 2.
Okay, because I'm teaching until 2, and so if you stop by at 2, I'm going to be posting this video as a YouTube video. It takes me 20 minutes to process a video after I get done with the class, and so I will be sitting here putzing around and super able to weld that for you.
Right.
And let's see, I'm supposed to have an office hour every day over the noon hour from noon to 1. And if anybody needs something welded, please stop by the art department between noon and 1. Usually it's better if you give me until about 10 after 12 or something to get here, because sometimes I'm running errands. But I usually try to do my office hour over the noon hour, and that would be a great time to catch me for a little wax welding thing. And if you happen to have the wherewithal, time and money, and can stop at Goodwill and try to look for a soldering iron wood burning kit. When I was a kid, I always thought that was a wood burning thing, for just like burning little designs into wood. I didn't know it was an actual soldering iron. But little electric soldering iron would just be the thing to weld these little pieces of wax together to create the sculptures, and especially to create the strong joints that we're looking for and that we need. Let's see. And while I'm here, I'm gonna weld a couple more things because I need to get these hands on better. Hands on. So you guys can hear the gas going as my room fills up with gas and it's about to explode. As I reach, what's that called? Stoiectomy. The right combination of gas and oxygen for gas to explode. Alrighty. Again, I'm trying to not burn the snot out of my hand in the flame while I'm doing this. I've been doing this for 30 years, but I always did it the same way every time. And now I have to kind of put it into the video, into the camera shot so you can see it. And so I'm risking life and limb, damn it, doing this stuff so that it can be viewed as an online demonstration. Feel bad for me, damn it.
Appreciate you.
Thank you so much. That helps. That goes a long way. Well, that's very nice. Damn, that's good. Okay, so the flame goes off, and I'm gonna put this thing away so that it won't hurt me anymore. And then I'm gonna be sculpting for a while. I don't have wax under my arm. I've got warm wax now in my wax box over here off camera. How are those wax hot boxes working for you guys? Are they effective? Have you been able to make them work? Did you have to put a hotter incandescent bulb in there to make that work?
I think they're pretty good.
Yeah, they do work pretty well, but you do have to like kind of let it warm up. So like I find that after like an hour or two of having it on, then the wax is perfect.
Oh,
But if
Yeah.
you don't have it prepared, then it's cold wax, and yeah, I found that the hard way, and I never have time to like turn it on right before class, so I always have to like wait a little bit for things to warm up, and then I can work on things.
okay. So this hot box will double as a heater for your bedroom, so you can just keep it on all the time, because it doesn't take any electricity. It doesn't cost anything to run that hot box.
Yeah. I'm super glad I'm like moving soon, but like my house currently is super cold. Like it's a very old house, so it doesn't have like central heating or anything. So like
I would take it.
yeah, it was really hard to like sculpt in there because it's freezing in there, and like the heater doesn't do a lot, and then so like this thing's the only thing really heating up the wax.
Yeah, when you don't have a good ambient room temperature, then your wax is going to be cold, and you're going to be cold, and the whole thing's going to be unpleasant. So yes, if you can find ways to get your wax warmed up, or go over to a sunny window on a sunny day and sculpt by the window, even a little bit of solar gain helps, and helps warm everything up, including yourself and your overall outlook on life. Oh, somebody wants to see the smoothing process, as if there's a smoothing process. Okay, all right, I'm going to do that. I'm going to have to leave the camera shot for about a minute or so to run and get the paint thinner from the next room and a couple of paper towels. But I'll be right back just to walk us through this as a basic concept, and I will be back. Let's see, what have I got here? Yeah, this is a thing that I can work on and smooth out. And so here I go. I'll be back. Ugh, ouch, stiff. Oh, ow. Okay, and he's coming back. So make sure when you're using flammable liquids that you have extinguished all fire and flame. Please don't have a torch or a candle going at the same time that you're using this stuff at the same workspace. But this is paint thinner, also known as mineral spirits. And I use this over and over again for wax sculpting. So I'm putting it into a little plastic container. I've only got about 2 tablespoons in here because it doesn't take much. And I went ahead and I buy these brushes for the studio. They're about 47 cents a piece at Walmart, and it's a 1-inch brush. It's a really crappy thing that they call a chip brush. They also say that it has, we used to call this a Chinese bristle brush because it has hog bristles for the bristles, and it's made in China. And so it's a very cheap brush that's, very good for sculpture anyway. So I've got my paint thinner, and I've got the brush. The brush is what I'm going to use to convey the wax onto the surface of my wax. So I'm going to just go ahead and paint it right on there. And you can see that it's all shiny and bright and shiny and wet. And you don't have to leave it on there for very long. And I use the paper towels here at school, but your own paper towels at home or even toilet paper would be fine. So the toilet paper, paper towel, whatever it is, has a certain amount of roughness to it. It has a certain tooth to the paper. And you're going to find that it dissolves the surface of the wax slightly, and that dissolved wax winds up on the paper towel. So you have to keep finding a clean spot and a new side and a new spot of paper towel to do this. But if you apply your wax, your paint thinner on here like 4 or 5 times and take 4 or 5 different and new paper towels or different sides to the same paper towel and rub it around, it's going to take out all the tool marks. It's going to smooth down a lot of stuff. And it's going to wind up blending the surface really well so that it's like this polished, very smooth surface of wax. And it's not terribly difficult, and it's not rocket science, definitely. But 3 or 4 applications of paint thinner and then wiped off with a paper towel, blended together, will get you a very smooth surface free of tool marks and little tiny imperfections and stuff. So that's the trick. When I get done with my paint thinner here at the school art studio, since I only use paint thinner for wax and nothing else because nobody uses oil paints anymore, so nobody uses mineral spirits as a paint thinner, I put all my paint thinner right back into the bucket. So yeah, it might have a little bit of dissolved wax in it, and the dissolved wax might kind of go down and become a residue at the bottom of the bucket. But I'm always recycling my mineral spirits as much as I can so that they don't go down the drain and they don't get to the ocean and they don't poison the fishes, because that's an important thing too. So I do the paint thinner, and you can do that as an intermediate step while you are refining a form. I definitely do it as a final finishing step when I've got the whole sculpture where I want it, except that I'm continuing to refine something by scraping and grinding, especially with the serrated edge on the Italian sculpting tool. For instance, right along this edge, I've got a lot of roughness because that's a parting line in the mold. So I actually want to kind of scrape that down and blend that in. Maybe I'm going to change camera angle so we can see that better. Let's see, try that. Yeah, okay. So I'm going to be scraping down this roughness, and there are bumps, lumpy bumps and high spots and everything. And I'm using the tool with its serrated edge, and I'm going to scrape kind of diagonally across the form, going one way like this. And then I might scrape diagonally across the form, going the opposite way. And I'm taking the high spots off, and I'm getting down to where I've got a kind of a really nice uniform surface, but I'm also working a fairly complex curving surface on the side of this rib cage right here as I take that down. And so I'm at a spot right now, if I can steady it and show you, and it won't focus. I'm going to steady it and show you, and it won't quite focus. I'm going to steady it and show you and put something here that has detail to see if it'll focus. There are small areas of vertical or of parallel scratches in this thing because the serrated edge is a series of teeth. And so I get all of these parallel scratches in the surface. So I've got a lot of scratched up rough surface there. And that's what I'm going to then use the paint thinner on, and paint the paint thinner on, and it dissolves the surface. And then I use this as kind of like a sandpaper because the tooth of this paper picks up the dissolved wax and smooths it out kind of like sandpaper. And so, of course, you can't see that because you couldn't see it before, but now all of those tool marks are gone. And I have a much more refined, smooth surface on that side of that rib cage right there. And so that's what I use the paint thinner for. It's a refining tool. It's a refining process as I'm really finishing up, especially a smooth surface. For those of you who are sculpting fur or rough surfaces or whatever, and you want them to stay rough, you won't be doing this. This is not a process that you'll be using. This is only for people who are obsessive compulsive and must have things smooth and must have things, you know, free of any, you know, tool marks, details, any of that kind of stuff. There was a movement in the early 20th century, the craftsman style architecture movement, and lots of craft movements in handicrafts like pottery and that kind of stuff, where they were really interested in truth to materials. And so if you were making marks in the clay, they wanted you to leave the marks in the clay because that was a real truthful, honest expression of the materials, and also the mark of the maker's hand as it was interacting with the clay or whatever, you know. So fingerprints and finger marks and stuff like that were kind of an important part of the maker's hand interacting with the fine handicraft, and that made it a distinct thing from manufactured goods at the time, which were, you know, free of defects and free of flaws because they were perfect, because they were made by machines. The arts and crafts movement in the early 1900s, 19 teens and 20s, was all about reclaiming some of the, I don't know, the spiritual beauty and quality of things that were made by hand, because people got tired already in the early 20th century. People got tired of the perfection of manufacturing, and they longed for the idea that craftsmen actually, you know, touched things with their hands, and that things weren't absolutely perfect replicas of each other's, like widgets that came off an assembly line. So things that were made by hand had a much higher intrinsic value because they were made by craftspeople. And so I'm going to make this thing perfect. I'm going to, I wanted to tell you that little story so that you would leave all of the marks of the maker's hand in there if you were so inclined and you so desired, so that you could leave some tool marks and you can leave some fingerprints and everything else. But if you must have it smooth, then this is the smoothing process that we use. And it's paint thinner or alcohol. Paint thinner is a little bit better as a solvent for the wax than the alcohol is. It might take you a few more tries, a few more coats with the alcohol to get the wax to dissolve in the same way that it dissolves with paint thinner. I'm going to put this one down. I'm going to put this away because I want to light up flames and fire again. And so I have a paper towel here that has a lot of paint thinner in it, and and it also has a lot of dissolved wax in this thing. And this is this is such a fire hazard, you can't believe it. They ask us to not put these all together in a garbage can, because when you put a whole bunch of these together in a garbage can, they can spontaneously combust. Oily rags in a garbage can all together, just the weight of them together, gravity pulling down on them, and oil on rags can spontaneously combust in a garbage can. So kind of be careful with this stuff. Put it into different kinds of garbage cans, disperse it a little bit, and just make sure that it's nowhere near around any kind of a flame, ignition, fire source, something like that. So if mine, I'm dropping on the floor right now. All right, well, that was the smoothing process. And I'm going to go back to making the rough process because I'm nowhere near smoothing yet. Maybe you guys are. Is there anybody who is so proud of their sculpture that they want to show it off to everybody else? I like spotlighting, highlighting people, celebrating the pride of accomplishment. So if anybody has something that they're particularly proud of at this point, even if it's not finished, and you want to share it, just go ahead and tell us. Unmute your mic, tell us about it. Uh-oh, here she
Got some
comes.
pretty tiny hands.
Wait, oh, let me put you, I'm gonna replace the pin. You made little tiny hands. Okay, so
They're
you're
still
making
in progress, but they're getting there. They're gorilla hands, so that's why they're still a little elongated, So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. I like the gorilla hands. I like the size and scale of them because that means that your gorilla sculpture is relatively small, which is good. That's good. All right. Zoe, did you have a thing you want to show us?
Yeah. So I decided for like the little mini project to get started, I was gonna do like the sword from She-Ra to like to put on a necklace for my friend.
Yes.
Can't really see it
Yeah.
that well, but it's
Yeah.
just the little shape of it. And I tried to do the lines by like carving those in with the little pick tool.
Yeah.
It's not great, but it sure is the shape of the thing that I wanted to make. And I think once I get the stuff to do the smoothing process, I'll put those lines in a little bit better so they're easier to see.
Yes. Yes. That's
I've
good.
got a little tiny sword with a hole in the handle so that I can put it on some string or something when it's done and give it to my friend as a necklace.
That's brilliant. That's great. Let's see. I'm going to treat this little arm sticking out here as if it's a sword blade. And so when you're in the refining process, it's really good to have your supporting hand. That's my left hand that's holding it and supporting it, to be supporting it with fingertips so that you can go like along the two edges of the sword and of course carve that down to give the sword contour so that it tapers towards a blade sharpness along the edges of the thing. We always, well, some of us learn the hard way that the wax is relatively soft or not strong. Now this was cast wax and was allowed to harden completely all by itself. So this has all microcrystalline structure to it. But if I had made this from scratch, it might be a lot more bendy, it might be a lot more breaky, it would require some welding and stuff to hold it together. And as I refine the form, it requires all kinds of support from a supporting hand underneath so that I don't bend it unnecessarily, break it. Was somebody trying to say something? Or was that way in the background?
That was background, sorry.
Okay, that's okay, no. Everybody's got their home life and all kinds of stuff going on, and that's just fine. I just want to make sure that I'm not missing a question or comment from you guys as I just break the hand off this goddamn sculpture again. Because that's what we do. We break stuff off and we stick it back on.
I do have a question.
Yeah.
So with mine, I hollowed it out and then I need to figure out how to keep this lid on there correctly. So I don't know if this is correct, but I put these in here
Yeah.
to hold this up. Is there a better way of going about that?
Well, I'm glad you asked me that, although it's a rather complicated question and it has to do more with the lids that we design for ceramics, but we could design a lid exactly like we would make a lidded form in ceramics for your wolf. Let me go get a pot with a lid on it and I'll be right back so that I can talk about that. Be right back. Okay. Yes. Okay. This is an excellent pot to use as a demonstration for that. So I have a little pottery pot here, and I'm going to pin the video back onto me again. And I'm going to move this out of the way. So I've got this pot, and so I've got the vessel has a plain lip on it that is just, there's no detail or anything to the lip. It's just flat. It's just plain. And the mating surface to that is the lid. And this lid has a little, what do we call this? A gallery, a ledge, a lip to it. So this has an interior lip that goes down inside the pot. And I just have to be able to hold this at the correct angle so you can see that this ledge here goes inside here so that it keeps the lid in place so the lid can't slide off sideways. And so if you could make this kind of this has like two lips actually. This has the flat ledge, the flat lip that is the lid edge, and then it has this interior lip that hangs down inside the pot. And this interior piece is the piece that locates and traps the lid into place so that it can't slide off sideways. And so you probably need something like this interior lip ledge right here to locate the back of your wolf in place so that it won't slide off sideways. Does that make sense, that to kind of fashion and build that kind of an internal lip that hangs down inside the body of the wolf?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, that's the concept. And if you look it up, online for pottery parts or something like that, lid and pot, it's the mechanics of how we keep these things registered with each other so they don't slide off each other. But that's the basic concept, the mechanical concept of keeping a lid on top of a pot so that they're joined and they're mechanically together so they won't slide off sideways. Okay, that's a concept. That might work for you. And then you could eliminate those cross pieces, which I think you don't like them because you think they're unsightly, and they probably are. So that would be a way of making your the lid sit properly on the back of the wolf. Okay, that was fun. Look at us. We are like solving problems and figuring stuff out in this class. That's pretty cool. Well, I had broken off my arm, and then I was welding it back on. And I'm going to probably wrap this up this evening because I've been talking for almost an hour so far. And we looked at the smoothing process a little bit, and we looked at the additive process and talked a little bit about the subtractive process. And you guys are making progress with your pieces, but you are expected to sculpt, a couple hours as lab time, as homework, besides this hour that we're together doing the demonstrations, bouncing ideas off of each other. So do try to step it up a bit so that we can get this thing kind of resolved and finished in the next 2 or 3 weeks. Because this is the 3rd week of the quarter, I think. Maybe this is the beginning of the 4th week of the quarter. Anyway, we're gonna have to start turning the corner on all of this and going from sculpting into bronze casting in another week or so. So we're running out of time. We don't have unlimited amount of time for this this part of the process. So we have to try to finish things up in the next 2 weeks or so. And I will check my calendars and get back to you guys on that. I'm going to change my camera angle so that I can say goodbye and be a nice guy about it. Do you have any questions or comments for the good of the order before we take off for the evening? I want to, yes, Zach.
I was just gonna show you my my bird here.
Okay, I'm gonna go find you, and then I'm gonna put you up there. Okay. Oh, look at those wings. Oh my God.
This
What?
is the
That is amazing.
Okay, so you want the tail welded back on.
Yeah, I can get it to sit there. I had it there, and while we were talking in class, because I was working on the feathers on the tails, and it finally fell off. And I was like, crap, dude. So I don't know
Okay.
if you can weld that in such a way that it doesn't screw up.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It'll mess up the surface a little bit, and so there will be a repair that you have to do. But to have it welded on a lot more permanently so that it doesn't fall off every damn time will remove a lot of the frustration for you.
Yeah, yeah.
How are the wings? Do the wings have any cracks in them?
Not anymore.
Okay.
The wings were the biggest pain in the butt I've
Yeah.
ever touched,
Okay.
Play-Doh or wax or anything. So
Did you do any welding on the wings, or have you mostly just smushed them together with additive process?
I mostly just packed them down with wax and smeared it all in together and stuff. And when it started to get weak, and then I've adjusted them and stuff to try and even them out. And I mean, they're fairly, like, I'll hold it by the wings.
Yeah. Well, that's good. I'm glad they're strong. That's cool. All right. Well, bring it by and I'll be happy to weld the tail on, like either during my office hours during the noon hour or at 2 o'clock or after 2 o'clock on Wednesday would be great.
Okay. All right.
Okay. Well, thanks, you guys. I'm going to go find wherever the hell I am again and get back to me because, I love looking at myself on television. Who doesn't? Love this stuff. Okay, we're making progress. We're learning a little bit more about this. Our little sculptures are getting just a little bit better every time we work on them, and that's what it's all about. I have to order some materials so that I'm all ready to go for the casting process 2 weeks from now. So I'm going to be doing a little bit of requisitioning and ordering and shipping over the next 2 weeks, but we'll be all set to receive your pieces in another week to 2 weeks, and I'll kind of be processing them right before your very eyes on these online things that we do at 6 to 7 o'clock or so. But I'm going to call it a night, I think, for this. And you guys can keep on sculpting or, go work on some other homework that you've got to do. So until Wednesday, have a good middle of your week, and I'll see you next time. And take care. See you on Wednesday.